Countries with high inflation in Latin America.
Number 10. Barbados. Barbados is a small island nation located in the Caribbean Sea. The country has experienced high inflation in recent years, with the inflation rate reaching 8.7% in 2020. This is significantly higher than the average inflation rate of Latin American countries, which was 1.2% during the same period. The main cause of Barbados' high inflation rate has been the rising cost of imports due to a decrease in domestic production and an increase in the value of the US dollar, which has caused prices to rise. Additionally, the Barbadian government has implemented a number of fiscal policies which have led to an increase in the money supply, putting further upward pressure on prices. The Barbadian government has responded to the high inflation by introducing a number of measures to bring it back under control. These include reducing import tariffs, cutting tax rates, and implementing strict fiscal policies. The government has also implemented measures to encourage domestic production, such as providing incentives to businesses and reducing red tape around the registration process. Number 9. Jamaica. Jamaica has one of the highest rates of inflation in Latin America. In 2019, the country had an annual inflation rate of just over 8%, one of the highest in the region. This was largely due to a combination of rising energy and oil prices, a weaker local currency, and an increase in the cost of basic goods. Additionally, Jamaica faced a widening fiscal deficit due to government overspending, resulting in higher debt levels and adding further pressure on prices. In response, the government has implemented various measures such as limiting imports, promoting domestic production, and cutting public wages in an effort to curb inflationary pressures. Despite these measures, inflation is expected to remain relatively high in Jamaica in the near future. Number 8. Paraguay. Paraguay is one of the countries in Latin America with high inflation. In the past decade, Paraguay's inflation rate has been one of the highest in the region, with an average of 8.12%. Inflation in the country has been driven by a number of factors, including a weak currency, high levels of government borrowing, and a lack of economic diversification. The government has tried to combat the issue with a number of measures, such as setting up a stabilization fund and increasing the central bank's control over monetary policy and the exchange rate. Despite these measures, inflation continues to remain high in Paraguay, as do the number of people living in poverty. Number 7. Colombia. The country of Colombia is an example of a country with high inflation in Latin America. According to the World Bank, the inflation rate in Colombia rose to 4.9% in 2020, up from 4.1% in 2019. Inflation in Colombia has been on a steady rise over the last few years, as the economy has struggled to keep up with the increasing demand for goods and services. The Colombian government has attempted to curb inflation by imposing price controls, increasing taxes, and cutting spending, but the efforts have been unsuccessful. Additionally, the high cost of living and increasing poverty in the country have put a strain on the economy, leading to a further rise in inflation. Inflation is a major concern for the country, as it can lead to a loss of purchasing power and decreased economic growth. Number 6. Nicaragua. Nicaragua is one of the countries in Latin America with high inflation. Nicaragua has experienced double-digit inflation rates in recent years, reaching a peak of 17.4% in 2019. This has been mainly driven by rising food prices, particularly for staples such as beans, rice, and corn. In addition, high levels of government spending and a persistent fiscal deficit have contributed to the inflationary pressures in Nicaragua. The Nicaraguan government has implemented a number of measures to address the issue, including increasing taxes, reducing public spending, and increasing liquidity in the banking system. Despite these efforts, inflation in Nicaragua remains relatively high. Number 5. Chile. Chile is one of the countries in Latin America that has experienced high inflation in recent years. Inflation in Chile has been consistently above the regional average for the past 3 years. In 2019, inflation in Chile reached its highest level in more than 20 years, hitting 4.3%. The main cause of inflation in Chile has been the devaluation of the Chilean peso, which has been driven by falling copper prices and an economic slowdown. Additionally, higher food prices, a minimum wage increase, and an increase in the cost of fuel have all contributed to Chile's high inflation rate. In response to the high inflation rate, the Chilean government has implemented several policies, such as adjusting fuel prices and increasing taxes, in an effort to reduce inflation. Number 4. Haiti. Haiti is one of the countries in Latin America with high inflation. The country's inflation rate has been hovering around double digits for many years, sitting at around 12.9% in 2019. Inflation in Haiti is a result of various factors, including political instability, weak economic policies, and a lack of investment. High levels of poverty in the country are also a driving factor behind the high inflation rate, as they lead to an increase in the demand for goods and services without a corresponding rise in production. Even the recent natural disasters that have hit the country have had a negative effect on inflation, as the destruction of infrastructure and increase in food prices have caused the prices of goods and services to rise. The Haitian government has implemented various measures to combat the issue of inflation, such as reducing import tariffs, increasing government borrowing, and introducing a new currency. However, the measures have yet to make a significant impact on inflation.
Number 3. Suriname. Suriname is a small country located in the northern part of South America. In recent years, the country has been plagued by high inflation. In 2019, the inflation rate was estimated to be 27.3%. This is a significant increase from the 5.3% rate reported in 2018. The main cause of the high inflation is the country's mismanagement of its currency. The government has printed too much money, leading to a decrease in the value of the currency and an increase in the cost of goods. This has caused prices to rise faster than the wages people earn, resulting in considerable financial hardship for many citizens. The government has implemented a number of reforms to try and control the rate of inflation, including introducing a new currency and reducing the public debt. Despite these efforts, the high inflation rate remains a major challenge for the country. Number 2. Argentina. Argentina is a major country in Latin America with a history of relatively high inflation. Inflation in Argentina has been a persistent issue for many years. Since 2015, the country has had annual inflation rates ranging from 15 to over 40%. In the early months of 2021, the annual inflation rate in Argentina had already reached over 50%, with prices rising for food, fuel, and basic services. The government has implemented austerity measures such as taxes and price controls in an effort to reduce inflation, but the policies have been largely unsuccessful. Argentina's central bank has also taken steps to manage inflation by increasing interest rates, which has had a positive effect on the inflation rate. Despite all of these measures, inflation continues to be a major issue in Argentina. Number 1. Venezuela. Venezuela has been experiencing a period of unprecedented inflation since 2016. According to the IMF, the inflation rate in Venezuela peaked at a staggering 1,697,489% in 2018, the highest rate in Latin America. This rate has been caused by a multitude of factors, such as devaluation of the Venezuelan bolivar, a decrease in oil prices, and government mismanagement of the economy. The impact of this high inflation rate has been devastating for Venezuelans, who have seen their purchasing power drastically reduced, and their quality of life diminished. Prices of basic goods such as food and medicine have skyrocketed, leading to shortages and long lines at grocery stores. In addition, the Venezuelan government has been unable to pay for imports, leading to a lack of essential goods. The government has attempted to come up with solutions to combat inflation, such as introducing a new currency, the sovereign bolivar, in 2018. However, these measures have not been sufficient to contain the rampant inflation in the country. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video on countries with high inflation in Latin America, be sure to check out some of our other amazing videos, where you can learn even more interesting facts and curiosities around the world. Until then, goodbye and have a great day.